A scene from a 1938 residential school opens the movie. The female pupils were attending a specific boarding school where they received support to enhance their health. The movie's protagonist, Shizuko, is depicted. Shizuko's stepmother was also ill and wanted to relocate to Tokyo, so she made arrangements for Shizuko to enroll at this boarding school. A staff member at the hostel was inspecting the items Shizuko brought from home. It is learned that the norms and regulations of this institution are stringent, and even female pupils are not allowed to keep private diaries. Shizuko was provided with a uniform and she enters a room where there are numerous beds. Yun-duke is the girl Shizuko meets there, and then she is forced to meet up with her fellow females by the principal. At night, according to their total number, there was an attendance of those girls. They were given a tablet at that time, perhaps to help them restore their health. After taking the pills, the females retired to their beds. Shizuko is awakened by a girl who then leads her to her group, where the other females try to bully her. She begins to cough, and when the girls notice that she is also bleeding, they believe Shizuko may be suffering from a virus that could spread to them. She was becoming concerned as the girls discussed it with her. Yun-duke removes her from there and she receives a flower tea from her. She also informed Shizuko that she would be receiving daily injections and with their assistance, she would quickly heal. He also mentioned that ladies who find out soon would have the chance to travel to Tokyo to study, which made Shizuko happy to hear. She wishes to travel to Tokyo with her father because her family and father both reside there. She constantly took medications because she wanted to get better as soon as possible. She encounters a female as she exits the principal's office, through which she receives some weird information. She claimed that Shizuko, a girl who got here before you, looked just like you. Do you realize she was a friend of mine and Yun-duke's? She asks. Shizuko was surprised and puzzled as to how a girl similar to her could share the same name. When Shizuko hears that the girl looked like her vanished some days before, she becomes terrified. Yun-duke inquires Shizuko as to why she is concerned, but she remains silent. She had the impression that Shizuko was anxious since the hostel had forbidden her from keeping a private diary. She leads Shizuko to a private location where she hides her diary. Shizuko receives her diary from her, and the two get along well now. She explained to her that although her family intended to go to Tokyo, she fell ill and her stepmother had to have her admitted. The hostel girls are later depicted, and they engage in some exercises to maintain their physical fitness. However, Shizuko failed to finish even a single task or activity and she is found to be physically unfit by the physicians. After this, they are shown in the eatery, where she goes to see the girl she met outside the main office. Can you tell me anything about the old Shizuko? She asked the girl. When the girl heard this, something happened to her, and the enraged girl prepared to strike her. Yun-duke intervened, and the second girl's situation was worse. Her eyes were screwed shut and she was trembling all over. Her body was twisted and a strange white liquid was coming out of her mouth. The next scene shows Shizuko entering the hospital space to receive the injection, and after their fight, the girl named Kihara returns to Shizuko. She appeared in good condition in this scenario and spoke to Shizuko as if nothing had happened. Shizuko is pictured with Yun-duke, who has grown to be a friend. Yun-duke inquires about Shizuko's wishes. I want to see the beach, she says, adding that my second wish is to visit my father in Tokyo. Yun-duke then drove her from the school's back gate to a swimming pool. Shizuko smiles as she observes it because she has never been to a location like this before. Shizuko questioned Yun-duke about why she looked after her. She replies, because I like you, my dear. They have a great time here, and then Shizuko is seen in the hospital room once more. She is found to have improved her physical condition, and in the competition held to keep the females in shape, she wins. After their physical class, the girls use the bathroom to freshen up. A dead bird was visible in Shizuko's clothing, and her uniform with her hair was covered in its blood. Kihara, a young woman who occasionally disagrees with her and occasionally enjoys her company, wished Shizuko ill earlier today. Both of them were working hard to visit Tokyo. Shizuko beat her and Kihara was jealous of her. She dons her blood-stained uniform and picks up the dead bird. In a fit of rage, she places the bird on Kihara's plate. Shizuko had been acting strangely ever since she discovered that dead bird. When she enters her room, she discovers a locket and a picture when she takes up the diary. As Shizuko was seeing that picture, the locket slipped from her grasp and she noticed a strange hand. She bravely looks beneath the bed but she doesn't find anyone. She discovers her classmate in a worse state on her bed as she watches in front of her. The girl had blood in her eyes, making it appear as though she had been transformed into a monster. She flees in fear, but when she comes back, she doesn't see any girl. The girl she had seen who vanished from school stunned her. The principal was telling them the girl had moved back to her house with her mother, but Shizuko was skeptical, wondering what was going on there. She tells Yun-duke that she saw the girl in an odd state before she vanished, but Yun-duke ignores her. In the operating room, Kihara is informed by Shizuko and she leads her to an odd location. She queries Shizuko, have you seen her here before? Shizuko denies being here, but she later discovers another injured girl. While wandering around inside, she notices that the girl is in poor shape. She saw Kihara pushing her neck when she fell to the ground and became limp. Angered, Shizuko goes in the direction of the medical room. She summons a nurse and they arrive at the location, but they are unable to locate anyone. Shizuko enters the room where they shared housing because she was having trouble understanding. She observes that Kihara's suitcase was also taken from this location like the earlier girl. She seeks this information from the principal. The principal was questioned about Kihara. She said that Kihara had been sent to another school. The following scene features Shizuko and Yunduke together as they discuss their development. The first person to travel to Tokyo was the topic of discussion because Yunduke was working hard and everyone assumed she would be the first, but Shizuko declared, "I too want to work hard like you and wish to see Tokyo. You need to be physically fit for this," according to Yunduke. When Shizuko hears her, she becomes enthusiastic and jumps high to demonstrate her physical fitness. Yunduke was surprised and said, "How did you accomplish that?" Shizuko was likewise unsure and said to her, "I have a strange, burning feeling within and I am not feeling well." Yunduke holds her hand while she memorizes something from her past. In the following scene, Shizuko moves to the principal and asks her to stop her medication because she has recovered. The principal also agrees with her. Following a few days, it was revealed that today was selection day and that a girl would be sent to Tokyo after selection. They thought Yunduke or Kihara would be chosen, but the principal instead chose Shizuko to travel to Tokyo. As a result of her jealousy, Kihara becomes enraged and fights with her. Shizuko yells angrily and the glass objects in the room break. With the aid of her powers, she raised her with one hand and held her till she passed out. Shizuko then leaves everything and, upon returning to consciousness, is unable to recall her previous actions. Yunduke approaches her and inquires as to her whereabouts. Shizuko claims she is unable to respond and that she is unsure of her situation. Despite having glass injuries to her hands, she did not appear to be in discomfort. Yunduke recalls a few old memories once more. She asks her, "Who are you? And what brought you here?" Shizuko was experiencing peculiar feelings when the nurse arrived and took Yunduke away. She snatches Yunduke's diary and she is reading the first page, which includes her name. After turning several pages, she discovers that Shizuko is identical to the preceding one, and they both have similar faces. Shizuko has found a hidden room and a concealed box, and they are Yunduke's private belongings. After opening the package, she discovers a picture of herself and Yunduke also gets there at this time. She was hearing outdated information from Yunduke about the past Shizuko. We learn about the movie's earlier sequences and it then cuts to a flashback. Yunduke and the ancient Shizuka can be seen playing in this room. They destroyed a flower vase while playing and there was glass in Shizuka's hand. Shizuka was harmed but she didn't even feel pain. Yunduke observed the ancient Shizuko as she was being folded in the earlier scenes. When Yunduke sees her, she becomes frightened and flees. The elderly Shizuko has gripped her foot and to defend herself she assaults her with a nearby box. She rushes to the hospital area later and returns here with a nurse. The old Shizuko had vanished before they arrived and she has vanished ever since that day. Yunduke was worried as the scene transitioned to the present. When Shizuko overhears her, she leads her to the main room and they begin a covert search here. The principal showed up at this time as well and she was accompanied by a military commander. They hide in the office and hear their words. When the principal leaves, they steal her keys. After that, remove a file from the filing cabinet to disclose the real story. The file discussed the research conducted on the local girls. Following the experiment, the results and modifications were also present in the girls. The girls became powerful following the experiment and even they experienced no pain at all. Shizuko is currently experiencing it and they unintentionally turn on a projector after seeing the creatures. Through the projector, they learn the real identity of the principal, that she is a doctor conducting the trials with the military's approval. She wasn't able to accomplish her goal until today. They may hear Kihara's voice throughout this from outside the main office. Kihara leaps from the tree as the principal exits the office. When the school nurse shows up, she quickly ushers the girls inside and didn't notice Shizuko and Yunduke there. They had fled and while rushing through the jungle, they saw a military camp in the distance. A military officer catches them and they attempt to strike him, but Shizuko was shot by the man and Yunduke has gotten away. Similar to what they saw on the projector, Shizuko is depicted in the experiment room, and Yunduke went to the principal's office to retrieve a gun to save Shizuko. Before she can help her, the military officer arrives and imprisons her in a crystal container. The nurse was asking the girls to wear the mask, and they were using it to induce inhalation of a particular type of medication. The principal was delighted since their experiment would be finished the following morning, which was her victory. Their girls will grow strong and they will then turn the females over to the military in exchange for a large sum of money. Their partner appears to be the military officer depicted in the main office, who was lying to her and wished to claim ownership of the experiment. He has taken over all control while dismissing the principal. He was asked by her, "My entire life's labor of love will go in vain if you do this." Shizuko is also depicted in the testing room with her senses intact. As she stands up from the bed and looks around, she discovers a door and is startled as she moves into it. Her buddies were in the glass container frozen in the ice when they passed away. She notices Yunduke's package and chooses the gun to save her. Later she shoots the soldiers along with the military officer. Shizuko makes the principal happy since her experiment is successful. She wants to find some way to share the good news with the military base, but Shizuko kills her from behind. The principal wasn't yet dead and was approaching from behind to attack her. Shizuko is shot, but the bullet exits her body and strikes the Yunduke container. The principal is lifted by Shizuko and thrown, which causes her to die. Following the assassination of her buddy, Shizuko visits her. She made vain attempts to conceal herself. And in the final scene of the film, the terrible state of the school is displayed. The nurse was murdered by the girls by stitching her body, and the school was filled with dead bodies. There was only Shizuko present, who was still seated and placing Yunduke in her lap. She is still alive, thanks to the principal's experiment. When she announced to Yunduke that they would finally relocate together, she was on the verge of passing away. Both of them die there. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching, and click the next movie recap displayed on the screen.